Okay, we're recording. I'm on my Resto Shaman. I level 178. He's my freshest 60, and he's currently my project. We went Necrolord. Pretty much use their abilities on cooldown when I'm engaged. We are at the Covenant headquarters. We're going to be listening to Cdew's Restoration Shaman. Not the whole thing, just some of it. Maybe do a little reaction. See.
How's it going, guys? As promised, as the sub goal that we reached, I'm going to be doing a Resto Shaman and Paladin guide. We're going to be starting off with the Resto Shaman guide here, and I'm leaving this notepad up for you guys that are watching as like a little bit of a point of reference. Because I imagine this is going to be a pretty long video because there's so much to talk about now, that, you know, if you already have your race locked in, you know, your stat per hour covenants, whatever, you can kind of use this as a point of reference to kind of like fast forward through the video. It might be an hour long and be like, okay, I really want to know about communication. And, you know, if I'm talking about, you know, cooldown management at the time, you could fast forward a little bit more and be like, okay, you know, this is where communication's at in the video. So, this is why I have this up here for you guys to see. This is the template that I'm going to be following and what to talk about, just to kind of help you guys navigate through the video. If you guys are watching live, obviously you don't have that problem, but I want to make sure that, you know, people get the information that they want out of this. So we're going to go ahead and talk about races for Resto Shaman for both Horde and Alliance. Obviously the best one for Horde is Orc. It kind of always has been for quite some time. Orc has incredibly good value right now because, you know, it's very likely to die in a stun. So having that reduction on the stun, why can't I find this here? 20% reduction is really, really good. And if you decide to craft the Cephus Legendary, which, you know, we'll talk about a little bit later as well, but that actually stacks with this Orc reduction, so that would be 30% stun reduction. Definitely going to be pretty meta at high-end PvP, as well as, like, you know, tournament play, things like that. So in my opinion, absolutely Orc if you're Horde. And then if you're Alliance, I would just say Dwarf or Dark Iron Dwarf, one of the two. I think Dwarf has a lot of value right now just because, you know, if you fight against Shadow Priest, you can remove Silence. If you fight against Rogues, you can remove their bleeds and their poisons, which they do have poisons back, so no more Rupture, no more Wound Poison. You can heal kind of bigger with that. Warriors have bleeds, Ferals have bleeds. It just feels pretty meta, and personally, I think that more for the physical damage reduction in the current meta that we're in. I feel like there's a lot of damage being thrown around, so 10% reduction on that physical damage is actually pretty good. So I would say those are the two, you know, best choices. For the Alliance side, I don't think it matters as much, you know, if you do want to play, you know, Panda or whatever. Alright, so for Spec and Honor talents, unfortunately for Resto Shamans, things have not really changed too much. One of my worries about Shadowlands was the fact that we're not really gaining too much, and someone actually asked me the question, like, Resto Shamans have, like, nothing different from BFA, like, why are they good right now? And after, like, reevaluating my healer tier list a little bit, I still think they're decent. I would say that they're a top 3 healer, you know, kind of towards the middle tier. Basically what I'm saying is there's not too much different here. First tier, I would recommend Unleash Life. It's actually a very, very strong instant heal. One of the stronger instant heals that you actually have. And then, you know, it obviously works with, you know, increasing the healing of your next couple heals. This is the only talent that has really changed Echo of the Elements. This used to be where Earthshield was, and now since Echo is here, you always take Echo. Never don't take Echo. Echo is amazing, you know, even for the Lava Burst, you know, the Healing Stream. Everything about Echo is really good. It makes your gameplay feel really smooth, because you're always essentially going to have Tidal Waves up, and I feel like in BFA you kind of struggle to keep Tidal Waves up because you want to Riptide on cooldown here, so you're always getting the increase out of these next healing spells by having maximum uptime on Tidal Waves.
I join the team fight.
Earth Grab and Spirit Wolf. So in BFA
characters,
you played a lot of Spirit Wolf because it was kind of paired with the power of Pack Spirit. Spirit Wolf, in my opinion, is not really played that much. I haven't really played it at all. I'm not going to say never play it, but I feel like Earth Grab has a lot of value right now. Some of the ways you can use Earth Grab is against some of those popular classes. If Rogues are going for a re-stealth, you can try and root behind a pillar, screw with them a little bit. If Monks pop images, Earth Grabbing images is like one of the best way to deal with them, because when they use Storm, Earth, and Fire, or images, or pets, or whatever you want to call them, and you root them, and you walk away from those images, you can't get hit by them anymore. And that's like one of the biggest DPS cooldowns from Windwalkers. So it actually really hurts Windwalkers to root images. It's one of those things that you want to do. And then what else can we do here? Obviously, if you're just trying to get away from anyone, you know, Earth Grab is really powerful. You can Earth Grab into Cap Totem, which is pretty powerful combination. And what I like to do with that is, like, if I'm going for like an Earth Grab Cap, you don't move your cursor. I use that cursor macros. We'll talk about that in a second. But you don't move your cursor at all. And then you just stack all your totems on top of each other. You see this? And it makes them really, really difficult to see. So you drop the Earth Grab, you drop the Cap, you drop the Earth Bind, you send all 3 totems, and people might not be able to click it fast enough to actually kill that. So it's a pretty good combination. But I would say if you're getting trained down by like some melee cleaves and you're trying to kite, Spirit Wolf in combination with Spectral Recovery just to get distance is probably still a pretty good combination. Because sometimes Earth Grab isn't like, it's not enough if people are just like kind of spamming through all their gap closers. Like if you're really just getting hard trucked down, you know, and people are just connecting on you, Earth Grab, you know, you kind of need a little bit more time to, you know, get people out of gap closers. You could try Spirit Wolf tied in with Spectral Recovery. Spectral Recovery is actually really important for cutting melee because it gives you additional speed on your Ghost Wolf, will actually help you get away. Earthen Wall Totem is obviously the best talent in this tier. It's one of, you know, it's one of your best defenses against damage in this expansion. You're going to use it early and you're going to use it often. Ancestral Vigor I've never taken, and Ancestral Protection Totem I've never taken, but I'm going to be honest, I never thought this talent would be worth it in Arena, but with the meta that we're in, I think there might be a place for it. I haven't used it yet, but I genuinely believe that Ancestral Protection Totem is probably not bad right now, just because you could get erased at certain points in the game. So yeah, I might experiment with this talent a little bit. I'm someone that likes consistency, which Earthen Totem is definitely going to lead to, but I think APT is maybe a decent choice here. Nature's Guardian in this expansion is definitely something that you're going to want. Because you can just blow up at any point, so having that little bit of extra healing is really powerful. Flash Flood in PvP is probably your best choice. You know, whenever you consume tidal waves, your next heal is going to be, you know, increased by a certain amount of speed. This is kind of why haste isn't as effective as Resto Shaman. You kind of have some kind of baked into the class. You know, I really don't play with much at all, so your casts are still pretty fast with that. What's the healing surge time looking like with that? So 1.6 for a healing wave, and I think healing surge might be 1.2. Yeah, it's 1.2, so that's already pretty quick. And then lastly, we have Ascendance. I was PV spec, that's why my talents are all wonky. Ascendance is probably, you know, your strongest cooldown. You know, if you're behind a pillar or behind yourself, it's like literally going to top you. So it's got great single target healing on yourself. It's got great AoE healing on your teammates as well, like if you're struggling. So you always want Ascendance here. High Tide and Wellspring, just they're not going to cut it. Pretty basic stuff if you guys watch my BFA guide. And now talking about the honor talents here, they're all the same, except for the fact that if you play short hex now, your hex has a 0-second cooldown. And this is something that people are talking about, like, oh my god, Shamans have 0 cooldown hex, this is going to be the best thing ever. I personally, with the comps that I play, I don't really feel like it's that crazy. In some scenarios, it's really, really, really good. But in other scenarios, I don't think it's that strong. And I think the reason why I don't think it's that strong is because I play only melee cleaves, which means I'm the one that's dealing with all the interrupts all the time. I'm the one that's, you know, got to heal my 2, like, idiot melee cleave brains, or just attack stuff. You know, they're always dying and shit. You know, it's really hard for me to try and hex stuff. I'll be like, yo, I full hex this guy, and they'll be like, screw it, I'm breaking that hex. Bow, bow, bow. Just, you know, it's like, oh my god, like they don't let me do anything. You know what I mean? It's like, and then to try and push up on a healer. So like if my teammates are here and I'm back here, then, you know, the healer's all the way over here. It's really awkward for me to push in through the middle of the fight, try and get over to this healer, try and start casting hexes. A lot of people have so much defense against it. So what I'm basically saying is there's some comps where it's good, but you need to basically figure out at the start of the game if you're going to go for that spam hex play, which means your DPS probably don't want to break the hex, or if you're playing a comp with like casters where they're tanking some of those interrupts, that way you can actually hex DPS off of them. If you're playing with a Shadow Priest, it could be good if you're not dotting that one person. And then also keep in mind, so like if you're ever fighting against like a Boomkin, this talent's worthless. You can't hex the Boomkin while he's in Boomkin form. He could decurse his teammates. I don't feel like it's that good. If you're fighting against people that have decurse in general, it's probably not going to be that good. I generally don't play this. The main the main reason why is because I feel like when I play melee cleaves, I have to run Tidebringer because my cleave healing is pretty weak. I'll talk about that in a second. If you're not playing melee cleave, you might feel a little bit different.
Dude, I can just
Actually, if
spam
you're
it.
playing melee caster or healer, it might be kind of the same. But basically, I feel like Shaman
is
cleave
so
healing right now is
rogue.
really weak, which means you kind of need Tidebringer to pick yourself back up in these certain situations. But if you're playing like spellcasters and your spellcasters are opposite sides and they're not getting like, you know, randomly cleave by DPS, because a lot of DPS just cleave on accident now. Warriors, Death Knights, Windwalkers. Like if you're stacked, you're just going to take cleave damage. This talent is definitely going to be a lot more effective in 2s because there's less stuff to deal with. In 2s, it's a pretty solid talent, I will say. So Grounding Totem, if you're ever fighting against casters, it's really good. I like it versus Ret Paladins. You might not think of them as a caster, but you can try and ground Hodge. It's pretty good. Hunters, you can try and ground Trap. It's pretty good.
Totem.
Even if you're just like randomly fighting against priests, you can ground Mind Games, you can ground Death, things like that. I'm not 100% sure if you can, but I think if you ground, then go for a Hex and they Death, and the Death gets grounded, it does no damage, which means the Hex won't break. I think that's a play you can make. I'm not 100% sure. Ancestral Gift is really powerful. I would recommend playing it every single time and use Spirit Walker's Grace. You have 5 seconds of Interrupt and Silence immunity. Definitely really powerful with recovering. I'll talk more about this when I go into the way to rotate cooldowns, but this is obviously really, really powerful. And then Tidebringer, like I said, if you are in need of cleave healing, like you feel like multiple teammates are dying pretty frequently, Tidebringers are going to be your go-to. If you're not in need of that, this is where you get to kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm not a big fan of Counter-Strike. I think it kind of sucks, but Sky Fury Totem, if you're playing with casters, is insane. I don't know if you guys have seen some of the damage that these casters can put out, but Ellie's can one-shot, Boomkins can one-shot, Fire Mages can one-shot. If you're playing with one of those classes, you probably want Sky Fury, and you probably want to time it with their burst. I think it's pretty good. Other than that, you know, like I said, Spectral Recovery, if you're getting away from melee cleave, if you're purging a lot, you can go with Electrocute. I don't think Cleansing Waters is very good in this expansion. Definitely don't ever use this versus UA Warlocks. You will regret it. Yeah, that will kill you instantly. Spirit Link Totem is useless since Blizzard nerfed it. I think Counter-Strike Totem kind of sucks. If you're low rated, maybe you can get away with Counter-Strike Totem, but Counter-Strike Totem is really awkward. Someone in the chat said Cleansing Waters could be good for Shut Up Priest in 2s. You could maybe do it for Shut Up Priest in 2s. I'm not a big fan of it in 3s though, because I feel like I end up constantly crowd controlling myself at times where I don't actually want to.
My turn.
So that's kind of personally where I'm at. Like I said, talents haven't changed too much. I'm trying to go through this a little bit quicker because we got a lot to talk about, and this is like pretty similar to my BFA stuff. But I'm going to go through all my macros right now, and I'm just going to give you guys quick, brief explanations on why I use these macros. This is just a party 1 dispel macro. I have self, I have party 2, and I have party 1. It just makes it really simple. You know, if you're healing this guy and you got to dispel your person out of sheep, instead of targeting that person, pressing dispel, targeting this person again to heal.